foundations have a role to play in bridging a gap that was mentioned in the film, in bridging a gap that Mr. Barnier has indicated between citizens, between civil society and policymakers and institutions, and that this disconnect can be closed. The best way to do it is to bring together those people who are trying to make change. So we called it an unconventional summit. I mean, summit, perhaps a rather grand word for a gathering of 50 individuals, but the idea was to bring together what we had identified as insiders, those working within institutions, but maybe not the usual suspects, people who were working for change internally, with those who are working in civil society actively towards change. And what was extremely compelling is the people that were brought together were closely linked to foundations. So it could be seen that there was this potential to close a triangle. The other approach, the unconventional approach, was to try to bring together people who don't normally engage, to look across sectors, to step out of our own comfort zones and our own particular expertise and way of working, and bring together scientists with mathematicians, with politicians, with filmmakers, with environmentalists in one room, and try and get a real diversity of perspectives and find out where the connections are between and where ideas could be moved forward from ideas to actual realizing that. We had a strong emphasis on looking intergenerationally, and that meaning we actually tried very hard to ensure not only there was a balance, but there was maybe a shift in the balance towards a younger perspective, younger engagement, and I think in that we succeeded. And what did come out through the weekend process was a quite long list of seeds for the future that many, if not most, were taken on by a specific interest of delegates that were there on their own, in small groups, in larger groups, both those so-called insiders and outsiders. So we're hoping that a lot of the seeds will be picked up either individually by foundations or in fact carried forward by those civil society players. There is key interest within the group that was brought together to continue the discussion. And I know that will happen regardless of what foundations do. But as foundation, we can also help provide that connecting space, whether that's online or finding ways for people to continue to meet together. But that was, I think, one of the strengths was actually the people who were brought together for the week over the course of the weekend. And I think it's incredibly important that NEF continues not only to follow that, to, as I say, catalyze, facilitate, provide the enabling space, but isn't leading on it. This is definitely something that is being led by those not only individuals but organizations that were there.
At this moment, in the second half of 2010, we invited some 20 German foundations who are also engaged in European issues to join forces and to start a new cooperation, a new platform, a network that we call the Engaged Europeans. And we were very successful in bringing this group of foundations together, not only the big usual suspects like Bosch Foundation, Bertelsmann Foundation, us, but also a lot of small foundations. That was very crucial for getting credibility also on the ground in the fields and in the broader sector, also among civil society players. And we started to really think about strategies, started synergies, started projects together. It was exactly the birth date, if you want so, of cooperation of German foundations concerning European projects. You know that there's a big tradition of German foundations supporting Europe. If you think about the Robert Bosch Foundation and their work in Eastern Europe, but also in Western Europe, German-French, German-Polish youth exchange programs. We have Bertelsmann, who advocated strongly in the 80s already, 90s particularly, for the enlargement process. So this is a big tradition, but never German foundations really worked together. And this was what we started in 2010. We also published already then open letters to the Chancellor in favor of the European project. And in the beginning of this year, we had the idea to really do something about the general opinion about Europe. And so the idea was to start a media campaign, and we convinced the Bosch Foundation together with us, Mercator, to invest the investments to basically run this campaign, and then we try to acquire media value from the media companies, and we were very successful in this. Today we have about 11 million euros that were invested by the media companies into both TV spots, that was one of the TV spots that we show, but also coverage in the news and paper and online. We are very strong in the online platforms. We have 11,000 likes on our Facebook page. It's the biggest Facebook page by a German foundation or civil society ever in this field. And it's a very interesting, fascinating discussion that started, accompanying, if you want, so the campaign, where media coverage of the campaign led to a discussion about Europe, about the future of Europe, about the vision of Europe, why Europe. So the campaign concept is that we ask ambassadors, very popular figures, we can maybe show some of the pictures, German politicians, artists, superstars in the media scene, but also ordinary Germans. We saw some of them in this TV spot about why they like Europe. And the name of the campaign is I Want Europe, Ich will Europa. I'm looking forward to continue this next year. We're thinking about a further development. It was also highly regarded by the Council and the Commission. They invited us just a couple of weeks ago. My colleagues presented it here in a group of PR specialists of the Commission and the Council, and we're discussing at the moment how this could work on a European level, but we are only in the starting of this. Thank you.
We need to be very careful in order to build common purpose, shared agenda, to be more effective in our work, to evaluate regularly and in a professional way the results of our action. And that will give ground for us to raise better arguments in defense of the work of foundations. The social needs, particularly in crises, in countries that are more vulnerable to crisis, is enormous. And foundations are under a tremendous burden of demands. We need to be very well focused and to put our efforts together. So the Council of European Foundations can be a very useful tool, because at EFC we have the support of a good technical staff, and with DAFT we can work with 6,000 institutions across Europe. That cross-fertilization can be a very important tool for a new role of foundations in our continent. And they really are a pépinière, if I may use a French word, of new ideas and of suggestions for innovation in the work of foundations.
Well, I think one of the points, and I'd made it earlier as well, I mean, the European Cultural Foundation has culture and Europe in its title, and it's because we believe in the two things, in the contribution that culture can make to Europe. But I think more and more we need to be working across sectors, finding ways that that cultural voice can be working side by side with others to address common causes, to address issues together. Mm-hmm. And I think the pépinière part is how we as foundations can identify those people working on the ground and connect them with others and actually help them in their desire to scale up those actions from a local to a broader impact. So maybe that's where the pépinière comes in finding and connecting.